They said weddings were the happiest days of your life. But what if, just hours after the vows, the man you married looked you straight in the eye and said, "I want a divorce. I love someone else"? What if the woman he claimed to love wasn't who anyone thought she was? And what if one unexpected encounter turned heartbreak into a revelation so shocking it rewrote every truth? Before this story ends, secrets will surface, loyalties will shatter, and one choice will change lives forever. Right finger subscribe now for stories that don't just entertain, they stay with you. The wedding had ended exactly the way everyone said it should, with white roses wilting slightly under the late summer heat, laughter echoing across the country estate, and a sky so blue it felt staged, as if God himself had signed off on the union. Guests clinked champagne glasses, phones buzzed with photos already flooding social media, captions declaring, "True love wins," and "Forever starts today." To the world, Amelia Hart had just married the man she loved, the man she believed she knew better than anyone else, Daniel Cross. He had smiled through the ceremony, held her hands firmly, whispered promises into her ear that made her heart flutter. He had said her name the way he always did, softly, like it was something sacred. No one noticed the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw tightened when the officiant declared them husband and wife. No one noticed because Amelia was glowing, because love makes you blind in the most dangerous way, it convinces you that happiness is permanent. They left the reception early, claiming exhaustion, laughter following them as they disappeared toward the honeymoon suite reserved in the west wing of the estate. Amelia still wore her dress, the silk brushing the floor as she kicked off her heels, laughing as Daniel closed the door behind them. She turned to him, ready to tease him, ready to fall into his arms the way she had imagined all day. But when she faced him, the room felt colder. Daniel wasn't smiling anymore. He stood by the door, hands in his pockets, eyes distant, like he was already somewhere else. She asked if he was all right, her voice light, assuming nerves, assuming nothing more than the weight of a big day. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked past her, sat on the edge of the bed they were supposed to share for the first time as husband and wife, and stared at the floor like it held answers he didn't want to say out loud. The silence stretched. Amelia felt it then, that strange tightening in her chest, the instinct she ignored because love teaches you to doubt yourself before you doubt the person you trust. "Amelia," he finally said, her name sounding unfamiliar, heavy. "We need to talk." The words every woman fears, delivered at the worst possible moment. She smiled anyway, brushing it off, joking about timing, about how conversations could wait until morning. But Daniel stood up, paced once, then stopped in front of her. His eyes were wet, not the kind of tears that come from joy, the kind that come from guilt. "I can't do this," he said. She laughed again, but this time it cracked. "Do what?" "This," he gestured vaguely between them, to the dress, the ring, the life they had just promised each other. "I made a mistake." The world didn't shatter immediately. It tilted. Amelia felt dizzy, her hands instinctively gripping the fabric of her gown as if it might anchor her to reality. She waited for him to explain, waited for the punchline, the reassurance. It didn't come. "I want a divorce," Daniel said, the words falling like stones. "I love someone else." Time slowed. Amelia heard the distant echo of laughter from the estate grounds, music still playing, unaware that a marriage had just died. Before it even began, she stared at him, searching his face for a sign that this was a cruel joke. There was none. "Someone else," she whispered. "Daniel, I know," he interrupted, running a hand through his hair, frustration mixing with fear. "I thought I could bury it. I thought marrying you would fix it. But it didn't. I can't lie to you. Not anymore." The betrayal burned hotter because it was delivered with honesty. Amelia sank onto the chair near the window, her wedding dress pooling around her like a reminder of everything she had lost in a single sentence. Questions crashed into her mind all at once. How long? Who? Why? How could he? But only one escaped her lips. Who was she? Daniel hesitated, and that hesitation told her more than the answer ever could. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. He shook his head. "You wouldn't understand." That was when something inside Amelia hardened. Love doesn't disappear instantly, it fractures. She stood up slowly, meeting his eyes with a strength she didn't know she had. "I think I deserve the truth." But Daniel didn't give it. He packed a bag in silence, each folded shirt another nail in the coffin of their marriage. When he reached the door, he stopped, turned back once, and said, "I'm sorry," like that word could stitch her back together. Then he left. Amelia stayed there long after the door closed, the room echoing with everything unsaid. She didn't cry right away. Shock has a way of numbing pain. Eventually, she changed out of her dress, folding it carefully like a memory she wasn't ready to destroy. She stared at her reflection, mascara smudged, eyes hollow, wondering how love could evaporate so quickly. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she left the estate before dawn, driving aimlessly until the sky turned gray. She ended up at a small coastal town she remembered from childhood, a place where the sea had always felt like it could wash things clean. She checked into a modest hotel under a fake name, not ready to be found, not ready to explain to friends and family why her marriage ended before the cake was even cut. On her second day there, she wandered into a quiet cafe near the harbor, the kind of place where locals lingered and strangers went unnoticed. She ordered coffee she barely tasted and took a seat by the window, watching waves crash against the rocks. That was when she saw him. Daniel. Her breath caught. For a moment, she thought grief had finally driven her to hallucinations. But there he was, unmistakable, sitting at a corner table, his posture relaxed in a way she hadn't seen in months. Across from him sat a woman, older than Amelia expected, elegant, confident, her laughter easy and unguarded. Daniel leaned toward her, listening intently, smiling with a softness that sliced through Amelia's chest. This was the unexpected encounter, the one she never planned, the one that would change everything. She should have left. She should have turned around and walked out. Instead, she stayed frozen, watching the man who had shattered her life look happier than he ever had with her. And as she watched, she noticed something else, the way the woman's hand brushed Daniel's, not romantically but protectively. Like someone who knew him far longer than Amelia ever had. That was when Amelia realized this story wasn't about infidelity alone. It was about secrets, timing, and a truth buried so deep it would unravel more than just a marriage. And this was only the beginning. Amelia didn't realize she had stood up until her chair scraped softly against the cafe floor, the sound sharp in her ears like a warning she ignored. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, to protect what little dignity she had left, but heartbreak has a reckless side, it demands answers even when they hurt. She adjusted her coat, pulled the hood slightly forward, and moved toward the counter as if ordering another coffee, positioning herself close enough to hear fragments of their conversation without being seen. Daniel's voice reached her first, familiar and foreign all at once, steady, calm, nothing like the broken man who had stood in their honeymoon suite the night before. He spoke about logistics, about flights, about timing, words that sounded ordinary but felt heavy with meaning. The woman nodded, her expression serious now, her eyes filled with something Amelia couldn't name, concern, perhaps, or responsibility. You shouldn't have married her, the woman said quietly, though the cafe's hum barely masked the words. It wasn't fair, Daniel exhaled, rubbing his temple. I know, I thought I could outrun it. I thought, if I chose the normal life, it would disappear. Disappear. Amelia's hands trembled. She clenched them into fists, nails digging into her palms, grounding herself. The woman leaned forward. You were never meant for normal, she said, not unkindly. You never have been. The intimacy between them wasn't romantic in the way Amelia had feared. There was no flirtation, no secret glances filled with desire. Instead, there was history, dense, complicated, shared history that wrapped around them like an invisible thread. Amelia felt suddenly small, like an extra in a story that had begun long before she entered the frame. The woman stood first. You need to tell her the truth, she said. All of it. Daniel shook his head immediately. No, it would destroy her. She's already destroyed, the woman replied gently. You just don't want to face what comes after. They parted moments later, the woman exiting through the side door, Daniel remaining behind, staring into his untouched coffee like it held the courage he lacked. Amelia didn't confront him, not yet. Instead, she slipped out, the sea air hitting her face, cold and sharp. Her heart raced as questions multiplied faster than answers. Who was that woman? Why did she speak like she had authority over Daniel's life? And what truth could possibly be worse than abandonment on their wedding night? She spent the rest of the day walking the shoreline, memories colliding with anger, sorrow folding into resolve. By evening, she knew one thing with absolute clarity, she would not be the woman who was left in the dark. If Daniel refused to tell her the truth, she would uncover it herself. The opportunity came sooner than expected. That night, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. We need to talk, please. Daniel. She stared at the screen for a long time before replying with a single word. Where? They met on the beach just after sunset, the sky painted in bruised purples and oranges, the tide whispering secrets as it rolled in. Daniel looked exhausted, guilt etched into every line of his face. He started to speak immediately, apologies tumbling out, but Amelia raised a hand, stopping him. "I saw you," she said simply. "At the cafe. With her." The color drained from his face. "Amelia, who is she?" Her voice was calm, but beneath it was steel. Daniel looked out at the ocean, as if hoping it might answer for him. "Her name is Eleanor," he said. She's the reason I am who I am." Amelia let out a bitter laugh. "That's vague enough to be a lie." He flinched. "She's my mother." The word landed softly, deceptively so, yet it shattered everything Amelia thought she understood. Daniel had told her his mother died when he was a teenager. He had spoken of her in the past tense, with a sadness that never invited questions. Amelia felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "You told me she was dead," she said. "She might as well have been," Daniel replied, pain flickering across his face. "She left, changed her name, built a life that didn't include me. Eleanor isn't just my mother, she's one of the most powerful women in Europe. CEO, investor, untouchable. When she walked away, she erased me completely." Amelia struggled to process the revelation. "Then why is she back now?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Because she's sick." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the waves. Amelia's anger faltered, confusion taking its place. "How sick?" "Terminal," he said quietly. "She found me 6 months ago. Said she wanted to make things right. To leave everything to me. But there are conditions. Public ones." Amelia's heart began to pound. "What does that have to do with us?" Daniel finally turned to her, eyes glassy. "Everything. Her board, her shareholders. They won't accept me, a nobody, raised outside her world, unless I fit their image. Stable, married, respectable. I wasn't supposed to fall in love with you, Amelia. But I did." The words twisted painfully. "So I was, what? A requirement?" "No," he said quickly. "You were real, the only real thing. But she came back into my life, and I panicked. I thought if I married you, I could keep both worlds. I was wrong." Amelia felt tears spill despite her efforts. "So you used me." Daniel stepped closer. "I was going to tell you. After the wedding, I swear." She shook her head. "You don't tell someone the truth after you bind them to a lie." The beach felt colder now, the wind biting. Amelia hugged herself, absorbing the weight of what he had confessed. This wasn't a simple affair. It was manipulation wrapped in legacy, love tangled in ambition. "And now?" she asked. "Now Eleanor's time is running out," Daniel said. "She wants me by her side. Publicly. She wants me to step into her world immediately. And I couldn't drag you into that storm knowing what it would cost you." Amelia laughed softly, bitter and hollow. "You already did." They stood there, two people bound by vows already broken, staring at a future neither had planned. Amelia realized something then. Daniel hadn't just chosen someone else over her. He had chosen a life shaped by abandonment and power, by fear of loss and hunger for approval. Understanding didn't erase the pain, but it transformed it into something sharper, clarity. "I'm done being your shield," Amelia said. "Your excuse. Your secret." "I know," Daniel whispered. "I don't expect forgiveness." She turned away, tears blurring the horizon. As she walked back toward the town lights, she felt something shift inside her. Not closure, not yet, but awakening. Daniel's truth had cracked open a door she didn't know existed. And beyond it lay consequences no one was prepared for. Because Amelia wasn't the only one who would pay the price for Eleanor's return. And the final reckoning, the unexpected encounter that would change all of their lives, was still waiting. Amelia didn't go back to the hotel that night. She walked until the streets blurred and the sea faded behind her, until exhaustion forced her into a small all-night diner glowing under fluorescent lights. She sat in a booth with a mug of lukewarm tea she never drank, replaying Daniel's words again and again, each repetition reshaping the meaning of her marriage, her heartbreak, her future. Somewhere between anger and grief, another emotion took root: resolve. She had been a supporting character in someone else's unfinished story for too long. Whatever came next would be written on her own terms. Morning arrived quietly. The town woke as if nothing monumental had happened, as if weddings didn't end before sunrise and lives didn't splinter overnight. Amelia paid her bill, stepped outside, and nearly collided with the woman she had spent all night thinking about. Eleanor. Up close, she looked different than she had in the cafe, smaller somehow, her confidence softened by fatigue. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, held something Amelia recognized instantly, regret. I was hoping I'd find you, Eleanor said. Amelia folded her arms, bracing herself. I doubt that. Eleanor didn't rise to the challenge. Instead, she gestured toward a nearby bench overlooking the harbor. Please, just a few minutes. Against her better judgment, Amelia agreed. They sat side by side in silence for a moment, the cry of gulls filling the space. Eleanor spoke first. Daniel didn't tell you everything. Amelia let out a dry laugh. That seems to be a theme. Eleanor nodded. I didn't come back into his life to claim him. I came back to save him. That caught Amelia off guard. She turned, studying the older woman's face, searching for manipulation. From what? From repeating my mistakes, Eleanor said quietly. And from a man far more dangerous than either of us. The words sent a chill through Amelia. Eleanor took a slow breath, then began unraveling a truth that had been buried for decades. She spoke of Daniel's father, a man whose charm masked cruelty, whose ambition left destruction in its wake. When Eleanor discovered his financial crimes and violent tendencies, she fled, believing disappearance was the only way to protect her son. She had arranged for Daniel to be raised far from that world, watched from a distance, never intervening, never revealing herself. I became powerful because I was afraid, Eleanor said. And power came with enemies. I kept him away from all of it. Or so I thought. Amelia's heart pounded. And now my time is almost gone, Eleanor replied. And his father's associates have resurfaced. They know Daniel exists. They want leverage. They want him. The harbor suddenly felt exposed, too open. Amelia stood. This is insane. I know how it sounds, Eleanor said, reaching into her bag and pulling out documents, photographs, articles. Proof. Names. Dates. Blood drained from Amelia's face as she flipped through them. Why tell me? Amelia asked. Because you're the variable I didn't anticipate, Eleanor said softly. Daniel loves you. That makes you powerful, and vulnerable. And because the board, the media, all of it, they think you're weak. Disposable. Amelia's spine straightened. I'm not. Eleanor smiled faintly. Exactly. Within days, everything accelerated. News broke of Eleanor's declining health, of a succession plan that named Daniel as her sole heir. Paparazzi swarmed. Speculation ignited. And then Amelia made a move no one expected. She gave an interview. Not as a scorned bride. Not as a victim, but as a woman reclaiming her narrative. She spoke calmly about love, about betrayal, about the danger of secrecy. She confirmed the marriage, acknowledged the separation, and refused to be silent. The public listened. They always do when truth carries conviction. Sympathy shifted. Questions followed, not about Amelia's worth, but about Daniel's secrecy and Eleanor's past. That night, Daniel found Amelia standing on the same beach where everything had broken. You didn't have to do that, he said. I did, she replied. For me, I never meant to hurt you. I know, she said. But intent doesn't erase impact. He swallowed hard. What happens now? Amelia looked out at the horizon. Now I stop living in reaction to your choices. Weeks later, Eleanor passed peacefully. In her final will, she made a move that stunned everyone. She divided her empire, placing half into a blind trust for global child protection initiatives and the other half under shared governance. Daniel would not rule alone. Amelia's name was listed as an independent trustee. Daniel confronted Eleanor before her death, anger and heartbreak colliding. Why her? Because she sees clearly, Eleanor said. And because love shouldn't come at the cost of someone's voice. In the end, Daniel didn't lose everything, but he lost the illusion that power could replace honesty. Amelia walked away from the marriage legally undone but personally reborn. She returned to her career, her dreams, her sense of self, stronger, sharper, unafraid. Their paths crossed one last time at the reading of the will. No anger, no longing, just understanding. Some love stories end in forever. Others end in freedom. And sometimes, the most unexpected encounter isn't the one that breaks your heart. It's the one that gives it back to you. If this story moved you, challenged you, or stayed with you, subscribe now. Because the stories worth hearing are the ones that refuse to lie.